And just as we talked about with the Apple devices, we'll talk now about securing an Android mobile device. Android operating systems include some security features, but also relies on third-party applications. Some of those features that are available, just like with the iPhones or the Apple iOS, is the security feature such as the passcode protection. You can use a password, a PIN, or set a screen pattern, and this is actually said to be the most secure. Having said that, make sure that you regularly take a microfiber cloth and clean your screens so that those patterns cannot be recognized if someone picks up your phone. Um, some mail servers, such as with Exchange, can be set to allow or deny a device based on the type of security feature or security passcode protection they're using on their device. So make sure that if you are in a corporate network, you check on that, because if you need to, you know, train your employees that, okay, for you to be able to have access to your mail here on your Android device, you need to set a swipe pattern on your mobile device for Exchange to be able to allow your device to communicate with it. So that might be part of your training that you have to provide users. You can also set failed login restrictions. Um, Automatically, Android is set to lock the system down after 5 failed attempts. If you're groggy or uh, driving and let's say you're jogging or whatever, and you're trying to access your phone, don't hit that 5th attempt, or you'll be an upset person. So make sure that you uh, close that and exit out until you're in a point where you can put in your correct passcode. You also have the ability for remote wipes and locator applications. Generally speaking, these are provided by third-party vendors. So you'll need to go and look on the Google Play Store for these, or Android Play Store for this. So make sure you do that. There's also antivirus protection that you can download for your device, such as I think most of the big ones like Malwarebytes has an app that you can download for making sure that you're not getting any malware on your device. You can also, get, like, I think AVG and some of those other big ones such as Trend Micro. Some are free, some are paid. Just make sure you do your research before you put anyone on there. Mobile devices are getting hit more and more each year. We're now in the millions each year that are getting hit. So good practices to definitely put some antivirus protection on your mobile device. Now we'll talk a little bit about troubleshooting your Android devices. Some steps to try to resolve your Android problems: force a reboot with a button combination. You'll need to check with your manufacturer of your device to know what the actual combination is to reboot your device. Or you can also look at how to remove your battery, take out the battery, and do a hard reboot with that as well. Leave your battery out for about 10 to 30 seconds before reinstalling it and then powering on your device. You have the ability to uninstall and reinstall a app that may be misbehaving, and generally speaking on those, you just kind of tap the app, kind of hold it for a little bit, and you'll see that it will have a little red X on it, or you can drag it up to a trash can. Just varies. You can do the same thing with removing apps on an iOS device as well. Generally, a lot of times when you're doing that, the whole thing will like shake a little bit, and you'll know that you're able to now manage that app. So just you can look that up on your device. You can install updates if they're available. As I mentioned earlier, this could be one way of trying to resolve an Android problem. And you can use the device recovery mode, which brings your system back to the original factory state. So that is a option that you have as well. You can root your device to get admin access to it. And this kind of gives you complete access to the file system and all the commands and features. And you can look up rooting an Android device on your own and see how to do that. Now we'll talk a little bit about virtualization basics. And like I said, we have discussed this in previous lessons, but we'll address it one more time here. And we'll go a little bit as we talk about the types of virtualization. Virtualization is simply that. It's when one physical machine hosts multiple activities that are normally done on multiple physical machines, such as having one machine, but you could have like 3 different virtual machines on it that are using your physical machine's resources. Now, there are 2 types of virtualization: server-side virtualization and client-side virtualization. With server-side virtualization, this provides a virtual desktop for use on multiple client machines. Most processing is done on a server. This provides a virtual desktop infrastructure. You might see this term, this acronym used sometimes, called VDI, Virtual Desktop Infrastructure. So essentially, your devices are going to access the server to have access to that virtual machine, to be able to use that virtual machine. So that's how you can think about the server-side virtualization. Now, an advantage of using server-side virtualization is this maximizes a company's investment in the hardware. And it also centralizes support for hardware, software, and the users because it is on the server side. Now, a disadvantage of this is that it requires high-end servers. So you're going to spend a lot more money on the servers and more network bandwidth. You're going to need more RAM. You're going to need, faster hard drives. You want to make sure you have, that hard drive space. You want to make sure that you have plenty of bandwidth available. So, make sure that, if you want to go server-side virtualization, that you take into effect the cost of having, the more multi-core processors, more RAM, that added expense. Now, some of the clients that are used with server-side virtualization are fat clients. These are just regular desktop computers or laptops, but there's nothing really on them. They're just accessing the server for that virtualization so that they have access to, their profile is there, and that gives them how, when you create it on the server side, what they have access to and what they can do. Thin clients. These are computers that has a regular operating system, but comparatively a lot less computer power. HP is well known for their thin clients. You can look those up. Generally speaking, with the thin clients, they're not going to be fans, they're not going to be moving parts. It's just essentially a dummy terminal that you use to use that virtual environment. These are great, though, in an environment where you just want to create these profiles. Let's say for a manufacturing environment where you create one where a person goes to log on to there, you have created what they can and cannot do based on your virtualization of their account. And you have zero clients, which are dumb terminals, or ultra thin client that does not have an operating system and just provides that interface with your hardware, such as your keyboard, your mouse, your monitor, and a network connection with enough software to load that virtualization program and that virtualization program only. Now, with client-side virtualization, this is where personal computers provide virtual environments for applications using 3 possible methods. You have the presentation virtualization, the application virtualization, and client-side desktop virtualization. Now, with presentation virtualization, remote application on server is controlled by a local computer, like RDS, or remote desktop service, as an example. With application virtualization, an virtual environment allows an application to run independent of the host operating system. So think about that. A virtual environment allows an application, a single application, to run independent of your host operating system. And then client-side desktop virtualization is where software installed on a PC manages virtual machines. Each virtual machine has its own operating system installed, such as, I've talked about these before, such as Virtual PC, VMware Player, and VirtualBox. Those are all examples of a virtual machine operating system. Software, not the actual operating system, but just the software. And then you will install whatever operating system you want on those. Now, as with everything in information systems or IT, we have to talk about security. So securing a virtual machine is necessary. Virtual machines are susceptible to hackers and malware, the same as a physical machine. The difference is, a lot of times, like if you have a virtual machine, it should only affect that, where it won't affect your whole network. So that is, a plus for using virtual machines. Now, if the virtual machine has access to the internet, it should have a firewall installed and malware protection installed on it, just like you would your physical computer. And virtual machines should be isolated for best security so that not everyone has access to them. In creating your accounts, you can have accounts set up for these virtual machines as well. And secure permissions to files that hold the virtual machine. Make sure not everybody has access or permission to those files where those virtual machine profiles are held. Well, that is it for Chapter 20 over mobile devices and client-side virtualization. I know it was a lot of information, but I hope you were able to take some away. Hope you might have had some experience with these topics before, but hopefully you've maybe found out something a little bit more that you didn't know, or maybe something intrigued you that you want to go and do more research for yourself just to find out more about that. Thank you for joining along in Chapter 20, and I look forward to seeing you in Chapter 21.